I picked this one up at a flea market recently. It's got a really nice shape and a pretty font. It says Virginia Etna Springs Company, Vinton, Virginia, 6-ounce bottle. My first Google search, right off the bat, I found this local historical account of the company, and that got me started. All I needed was a name to get started, so let's see what we can find on this episode of Antique Bottle Stories. Our story begins with a guy named John Peck. He was born in 1863 in New York. I didn't find much to tell us about his upbringing, so let's just start where the paper trail starts. 1905. This shows John, his wife Agnes, and John Jr. already grown. July 1906 is the first mention of the company in the paper. It says the Virginia Etna Lithia Springs Company. The new owners of the Lithia Springs at Vinton will, beginning today, put this fine water on Roanoke Market at 10 cents a gallon. So I guess the springs were owned by someone else before this. A month later, just an ad that if you send $1, you can get 10 gallons of water. The next ad in the paper is in November that year. Lithia water from Mother Earth. Virginia Springs Etna Lithia Springs Company. Formerly the Etna Springs, so they did take over for a different company. So, on that local website that I was telling you about, there was a photo submitted of the facility. So you can see the spring back there, covered by that gazebo. I would imagine one of those guys is John Peck, possibly John Sr. and John Jr. There's a horse back there. And are those horses back there too? And does that road look really muddy to you? Oh, and I just noticed there's a dog. That's a cool photo. 1910 census shows the household. It looks like John Jr. is their only child. That's what she says on here. There's 5 servants. It looks like a mom and 2 daughters from Ireland. If she is their mom, she was 15 when she had her first child. They are housekeeping. And there's also a cook and a chauffeur that lives in the household. 1911, there's an ad in the paper. You can get water natural or carbonated. 1912, you can get a 5-gallon tilting carboy. A deposit is required. What's a carboy? Ah, okay, I get it. We're also selling ginger ale now. This tells us all the officers of the company. John Sr. is president, and Arthur Elliott is secretary, and it lists a few other directors, including John Jr. Here's a little calendar for August 1912. September 1912, this informs us that the name had changed. They dropped Lithia from the name. It says amendment made to Foreign Charter New Jersey Corporation. I'm a little confused by that. Still in 1912, Google Books ad here with the logo, and this says New York and Roanoke, Virginia. So that's interesting. It even has a New York office address. 1914, a wanted ad looking for a stenographer to handle some office work. 1916, this says Virginia Etna Springs is situated on a nice plot of land and might make a beautiful spot to build a hotel. It says in the near future, there may be a building erected here. It goes on to say that the benefits of this water are not confined to our own country, but large shipments had been sent to England before the present European war. It says it also manufactures a superior ginger ale. 1916, I found a Google book that had a photo of the water bottle and what the label looks like for the mineral water. 1917, it just reports that John Jr. has come back from spending 6 weeks in Puerto Rico. 1917 looks like we've got some trouble here. As a result of the differences between the working men and the manager at the Virginia Etna Springs, all hands, with the exception of one man, from the foreman down, quit work this morning. A couple days later, a wanted ad for a bottler. So I guess some guys didn't come back. 1917, they're selling off their horses and wagons due to discontinuing horseback delivery. They must have upgraded to some automobiles. 1920, John Jr. is married, but continues to live at his parents' home. Only one servant cook is living at the home at the moment. 1920, they're selling off one of their trucks. 1922 article says that The company was granted a charter, but what I wanted to focus on here is that it lists John Jr. as president and his wife Margaret as secretary. I'm not sure when the change of hands happens. In 1923, a notice in the paper states that the manufacture and sale of its ginger ale using a club-shaped bottle with the name blown in the glass is the sole property of the company and is not to be used for any other purpose. I wonder if that's the bottle that I have. My bottle doesn't match the photo that we saw a few minutes ago for the mineral water, so my bottle might be a ginger ale bottle. 1925, this is talking about the town of Vinton and mentions that Vinton is the shipping point for the company, and in this vicinity are large deposits of phosphate, which are now being developed and shipments made. 1927, the springs were tested, and here are the minerals found in it. In 1932, 8 people are employed at the plant at this time. It says the present owners took over the plant in 1906. It says the spring in the back supplies 17,000 gallons of water a day for the manufacturer. It says human hands do not touch the bottles from the time they are put in the washing machine until they merge, filled, and capped from the filling machine. The washing machine scrubs the bottles inside and out with brushes and sterilizes them with steam. They are placed in crates by hand. 31 bottles a minute, 75 cases an hour. And this photo says it's from 1906. 1932, this says there's 2 big companies in Vinton, one being the Springs Company and the other is Vinton Milling Company, which mills flour and feed. Fun fact, they tell in this article that the name of the town was originally Gish's Mills, which is named after the earliest settlers in the area in 1835, David Gish and his brother. Each brother owned a mill. 1934 looks like we added a new flavor, orange. This one says that it makes a good mixer, or it's good by itself. This 1936 article says it's been long planned to build a hotel here, but the plans never materialized. 1937, John Sr. died at the age of 73 of a heart attack at their home at 340 Day Avenue. That brings me here. It looks like it's in pretty good condition, although somebody should probably cut that grass. I looked it up on Zillow. It's built in 1915, 2,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 bath. It's really cute. Okay, so in 1939, thieves broke into the office and broke the combinations to 2 safes, but they didn't manage to get either of them open. Nothing of value was reported missing. In 1939, this author wanted to compliment the company on doing such a great job of keeping such a high standard of quality, upholding the reputation of local-made products. 1940, John Jr. and his wife are living in the home, no kids, and he's still listed as president. We're up to 1944, World War II, and sugar is rationed at this point. All the soda manufacturers are feeling the pinch on their businesses. Well, 200 pounds of sugar was stolen from the plant over the weekend, and it says this is the 3rd robbery of sugar since Thanksgiving. It's February. It says 1,200 pounds have been stolen so far. I think my first suspects would be the other soda factories that are nearby. There would be no need for a regular Joe to steal 200 pounds of sugar. Skipping ahead to 1950, John Jr. dies at the age of 64. His home was 2615 Cornwallis, which brings me here. The following year, in 1951, some of his estate is being put in order. 1952, this says that the company has been in operation for 55 years and been in the same family since 1903. So that would make the original owners in this business open about 1897. It says in 1914, John Jr. took over. His wife is now the president. 14 people are employed there now. This 1955 says Margaret is still the president and that the address is 322 Virginia Avenue, which brings me here. 1958, the article gives a quick history and says that Margaret is still running the business along with a guy named William Miles. It's now been 8 years since her husband died. They mention that there are more flavors now. There's water, ginger ale, grape, lemon, and orange. 2 years later, February 1960, Margaret dies. Now that guy, William Miles, he takes over as president. presumably until he dies 5 years later in 1965. The following year, Etna Springs assets are being auctioned off. It says the business went into bankruptcy several months ago. The following year, it says, for the sale and removal of the following buildings from the right-of-way of Route 24, Project 24149-102. It lists 5 buildings, including a former church, are in the way and about to be removed. So this is not the company building. I wonder if the spring is still back there, though. I guess it would have been in this guy's front yard where these trees are. How do you just close up a spring that is spewing 17,000 gallons of water a day? It's gotta be there somewhere. So my bottle doesn't have Lithia in the name, so it dates after 1912. I suppose it could date as late as the 50s. The bottom doesn't help me here with a date. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this one. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.